So picture this. I was a teenager, still living with my folks, and they were off on some trip courtesy of my mom's rich friend, Patty. Now, being an only child, this left me home alone for an entire week, a pretty rare occurrence in my household since my parents aren't big on going out. Our house was in Newark, Ohio, nestled in what's known as Licking County. Yeah, you heard that right, Licking County. Strange name, right? Anyway, our place had this old house with woods out back, sitting on a quiet road where only a few cars passed by each day. Now, our backyard was pretty sweet. We had this huge deck overlooking the woods, a decent-sized yard, a little fish pond, and even an above-ground swimming pool. So one Thursday night in July 2013, I was chilling out on the deck, puffing away on some weed and blasting music from my speaker. Suddenly, I swear I heard a voice coming from the woods. At first, I thought maybe it was just my imagination, but when it happened again, I knew I wasn't just hearing things. It was a dude's voice calling out, "Hey, over here!" Now, the woods weren't too far from the deck, maybe 20 or 30 yards away. And let me tell you, I wasn't exactly expecting someone to be calling out to me. I figured it was probably just some kids goofing around, playing manhunt or something. But still, it definitely gave me the creeps. The voice called out again, "Hey, over here! We need help!" This time it hit me. The voice was too deep to be a kid, and when someone yells out for help, well, that's always a bit concerning. I started feeling uneasy. Were these calls directed at me? The voice yelled, "Straight in front of you! Please come help us!" And I realized it was coming from right in front of me, deep within the woods. Now, I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was meant for me. Reluctantly, I called out, "Who is that?" They responded, "We just need help. We're stuck in the woods." My curiosity piqued. I asked, "What does that mean?" Their reply was simple, "Just please come help. Straight in front of you." With a mix of apprehension and determination, I left my seat, descended the deck steps, and stepped onto the grass, heading towards the woods. "I'm coming! Where are you?" I shouted. The voice instantly replied, "Right in front of you, I see you." But then, I asked if they were alone or with someone, and there was no answer. That's when my gut twisted with unease. I stopped halfway to the woods, a sense of foreboding washing over me. Something just didn't add up. Slowly, I began walking backward towards the safety of the house and the deck. I didn't even want to turn my back to the woods. It took me that long to realize how suspicious this whole situation was. Back on the deck, the voice fell silent. If this were real, if they truly saw me, wouldn't they have said something more? At the very least, "Where are you going?" They knew I was onto them. But who knows how many people were lurking in those woods? It could have been one person, or maybe three. But one thing's for sure. Getting stuck in the woods just doesn't add up, especially if they could see me clearly. I mean, did their shirt get snagged on a branch or something? I wasn't taking any chances, so I went inside, locked all the doors, just to be safe. I lounged in my living room for a while, still feeling the effects of the weed. I think that's why I was initially more trusting. That relaxed high made me a bit more open to weird situations. But then, I heard the voice again, closer this time, definitely in the backyard. There was splashing, maybe from the pool or the pond. I rushed to the window, peering out. At first, I didn't see anyone, but then the voice called out, "I see you," with a laugh. I spotted him. Just one guy, hidden behind the pool, only his head visible in the darkness, his hair a murky silhouette. I closed the blinds, hoping he'd lose interest if he saw I wasn't playing along. He seemed like some sicko who enjoyed messing with people, and I wasn't about to give him what he wanted. But then, he started banging aggressively on the window where I just closed the blinds, screaming for help. I lost it, screaming back, telling him to back off, that the police were on their way. I wanted to sound crazier than him, make him think twice about messing with me. His laughter faded as he walked away, but I was trembling, shaking, out of breath as I sank back onto the couch. Eventually, it seemed like he'd given up. I still managed to get some sleep that night, thanks to the weed helping me relax, but I couldn't help but wonder if I'd handle things differently if I hadn't been high. This whole ordeal definitely made me more paranoid about who I let into my life.
This is a little tale from my high school days. Back then, I lived at home with my parents and my brother, and we also had 2 dogs. Typically, one of us would take the dogs for a walk every day. It could be me, my brother, or my parents. One evening, around 8 p.m., as the sun was setting and the weather was pleasant, the dogs needed their walk. My parents decided to take them, and my brother was at a friend's place. I stayed home alone, struggling with some homework. Whenever my parents took the dogs for a walk, I never quite knew how long they'd be gone. Our neighborhood was relatively quiet, but it was expansive, with lots of streets and houses. There was also a park nearby. Sometimes the walk could take 20 to 30 minutes, other times over an hour. As my parents left, I bid them goodbye from my bedroom upstairs, then tried to focus on my math assignment. However, the concepts were eluding me. Lost in my attempt to grasp them, I lost track of time. Suddenly, the tranquility was shattered by the unmistakable sound of footsteps ascending the stairs. Panic surged through me as the footsteps drew nearer, inching closer to my bedroom. Without a lock on my door, I felt utterly defenseless. My heart raced, fearing the worst, that whoever it was would enter my room uninvited. As the footsteps passed by my room and headed towards the end of the hallway, where the bathroom, my parents' bedroom, and the guest room were located, I breathed a sigh of relief. As the footsteps approached my parents' bedroom and the guest room, instinct kicked in, and without hesitation, I bolted for the doorway. My mind raced with adrenaline-fueled urgency as I sprinted down the stairs, my sole focus on escaping. I didn't dare glance back to see who or what lurked within the confines of our home. This was my chance to flee, and I seized it. Racing down the stairs, I made a beeline for the front door, propelled by fear and desperation. Bursting outside, I didn't pause to look back, but instead, I dashed towards the safety of the street. Whether the intruder pursued me remains a blur in my memory. All I remember is the overwhelming need to put as much distance between myself and that house as possible. Out on the street, I kept jogging until I spotted my parents, accompanied by our dogs. Their concerned expressions mirrored my own turmoil as they questioned my sudden sprint. Breathless and shaken, I relayed the terrifying ordeal to them, prompting my dad to contact the authorities immediately. While we waited at a safe distance, my mind raced with fear and uncertainty. Our neighborhood, usually tranquil, had been violated, and the thought sent shivers down my spine. When the police arrived, we returned home, only to find that the intruder had vanished without a trace. It was a chilling reminder of the fragility of security. In the weeks that followed, reports of burglaries nearby heightened our vigilance. It seemed likely that the same culprit was responsible for our harrowing experience. Though a suspect was apprehended, we couldn't be certain if he was the same individual who had trespassed in our home. Regardless, I was grateful for my swift escape. That night will forever remain etched in my memory as one of the scariest moments of my life. The thought of sharing a space with an unknown intruder just down the hallway still sends chills down my spine.
I was 19 years old when this incident occurred. I was supposed to have the house to myself for the weekend, and that's exactly how it was shaping up. I hail from a decent city in Georgia, where I still reside in the same neighborhood and house. I prefer not to divulge too much about myself for privacy reasons. At the time, I can't recall where my mom was, but she and my older sister were both away for the weekend. Saturdays are typically my favorite days, especially when I have the house all to myself and don't have to worry about schoolwork. However, since that night, I've harbored doubts about being alone at home, and it's something that will likely linger in my mind for a long time. Fast forward to close to midnight, I was engrossed in watching some random animal documentary, and sleepiness started to set in. Before hitting the sack, I decided to step out onto the front porch for a quick smoke session with my trusty bowl. When I returned indoors, I was feeling quite mellow from the weed. However, my relaxed state didn't last long. Within seconds, I noticed something was amiss. My heart practically leaped out of my chest when I realized that the sliding glass door leading to the back patio was wide open. Panic engulfed me as I grappled with the realization that someone had broken in. How could I have forgotten to lock the door? How did I not notice it sooner? My first instinct was to arm myself, so I dashed to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. With cautious steps, I made my way to my bedroom, fervently hoping that I wouldn't come face to face with the intruder. After scouring every nook and cranny of the house, I found no trace of an intruder. It was baffling. I must have spent a good half hour searching high and low, but there was nothing. I even started questioning my sanity, entertaining the thought that maybe I had left the door open and simply forgotten about it until now. As absurd as it sounded, it was the only explanation I could come up with. With no other options in sight, I had to come to terms with the unsettling situation. I couldn't even call my mom for reassurance because my phone had run out of minutes. Left with no other choice, I resigned myself to calling it a night. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay in bed with a knife clutched tightly beside me, my bedroom door firmly locked. Hours passed, and still, I found myself wide awake, consumed by a sense of unease that refused to dissipate. It became clear that lying in bed wasn't doing me any favors. If anything, it only heightened my anxiety. Summoning every ounce of courage I could muster, I decided to get up and try to calm my nerves with another smoke. This time, I opted to crack open my bedroom window and blow the smoke out, hoping it would provide some semblance of relief. As I sat there puffing away, my ears caught the distant sound of a car engine coming to life. It struck me as odd. Our neighborhood was typically quiet at this hour, with most of my neighbors retiring to bed early, given their age. The fact that a car was starting up so late at night piqued my curiosity, stirring a sense of apprehension within me. In a split second, a nagging feeling gnawed at my consciousness, urging me to investigate. With hesitant hands, I cracked open my window, peering out into the dimly lit driveway below. There, illuminated by the soft glow of the streetlights, sat a truck, its engine humming softly, with an unfamiliar figure seated inside. My pulse quickened, a surge of anxiety coursing through me. Was I in trouble? Unsure if the person in the truck had spotted me, I squinted, trying to make out their features. It was then that I discerned the silhouette of a man behind the wheel of my car, which was inexplicably running. Before I could fully comprehend the situation, the truck lurched into motion, pulling out of the driveway in a hurried escape. Reacting swiftly, I bolted out of my room, racing to the front porch in a frantic bid to confront the intruder. But by the time I reached the porch, both vehicles had vanished into the night, leaving behind an eerie silence that echoed through the empty street. As I surveyed the scene, a sinking realization washed over me. Our home had been violated, robbed of its peace and security. The absence of my car and the missing television only confirmed my worst fears. It was a violation that shook me to my core, leaving me grappling with feelings of vulnerability and insecurity. In the aftermath of that harrowing night, I found myself plagued by lingering questions. Would they return? Were we targeted, or was it a random act of opportunism? The uncertainty gnawed at me, casting a long shadow of unease that lingered for years to come. Even now, decades later, the memory continues to haunt me, a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the lingering scars of trauma. Despite the passage of time and the absence of my parents, the sense of unease lingers, a testament to the enduring impact of that fateful night. I've come across articles online discussing the complexities of hot wiring a car. It's not exactly a walk in the park, but with the right tools and expertise, it can be done swiftly. In our case, the perpetrators made off with more than just my car. They plundered 2 TVs, my mom's safe containing a substantial sum, and various other valuables from her room. What puzzles me to this day is why they didn't attempt to enter my room. Did they know I was there? Or was it merely a stroke of luck? The uncertainty gnaws at me. My mom, on the other hand, was convinced it was the work of her eccentric ex-boyfriend, a theory I find hard to dismiss given the circumstances. Though I'm grateful they spared me, The whole ordeal leaves me feeling perplexed and unsettled. It's a sobering reminder of the unpredictable nature of human behavior.